Andrew Jackson in 1835, Abraham Lincoln in 1865, JFK in 1963, RFK in 1968, George Wallace in 1972, Gerald Ford in 1975, Ronald Reagan in 1981. This week's assassination attempt on Republican nominee Donald Trump harkens back to dark chapters of political violence in American history. Where does this come from, and where does it take us? Joanne Freeman is one of the world's top experts on this subject. She is a professor of American history at Yale, and she joins me now. Welcome. So people often say America has this unique history of political violence. How true do you think that is, and why does it seem to burst forward at some periods that Tim Natale was saying, period of great social change, or what I've described as revolutionary moments? Tell us what your sense of the history is.
Well, we do have a long history of political violence in all kinds of ways. Obviously, assassination is one way that goes all the way back. You know, it's one of the glories of democracy is our freedom as a people to express our thoughts, to have free thoughts, to have free protest. And with that kind of freedom and with those kinds of rights, there are also vulnerabilities and there are also dangers, and that's particularly true at moments when people feel that the political infrastructure is shaky, or national institutions maybe don't feel as though they're up to the job. And there are moments in American history, and that some of them were mentioned in earlier commentary, and one of them is the period leading up to the Civil War, and one of them is the fight for civil rights in the 1960s, when the people who are in power, or I suppose you could say the status quo, feel as though that power is being threatened in some way, and the system itself doesn't seem to be solving it in a way that is to their satisfaction. They feel threatened, and often those are moments when someone steps forward and basically pushes aside the normal democratic process for, arguing and coming together and coming up with some kind of a solution, and they just turn to violence. And so in the 1850s and 60s was the slavery issue, and you had people who did not want slavery to be eliminated who came forward and assassinated Abraham Lincoln. In the 1960s, with the multiple incidents, again, you had people who were fighting for rights, for civil rights, and you had others who did not want to lose what they considered to be their rights, who stepped forward and used violence.
And how would you characterize this period? What is the struggle?
Well, in some ways, the struggle is a struggle about democracy, right? The struggle that we're in the middle of right now has to do with the fundamentals of what democracy is, how democracy works. Are we a democratic republic? We are. What does that mean? And we've seen... And
who is it working for, in a sense?
Who is it working for, and how many people, who gets included within it, or who gets excluded from it? Those are huge questions, and those are questions that are society-wide, right? They affect everyone. And they're the kinds of questions that get people riled up because they feel that, in some cases, something's being taken away from them, and it's that kind of emotion that inspires sometimes people.
And it feels like when the conflicts are over these highly emotive issues, these are not economic issues anymore. These are issues of culture, of identity, where compromise seems very difficult to make, right?
Particularly when some of the rhetoric is declaring that the other are inhuman. Again, look, even in other countries, when people start to use the language of, they're vermin, or they're othering people to such an extreme degree, how can there be a coming together when you're not only othering people as disagreeing with you, but you're othering them as being from a different species? That's extreme rhetoric.
You started by talking about how we have this strong tradition of First Amendment rights of speech. We also have a strong tradition of Second Amendment and a huge gun culture, and it goes back to dueling. And so part of this here is a history of armed violence in a way that I think other countries don't have.
That's true. And that goes all the way back as well. It's I suppose, interesting, maybe noteworthy, that even way back in the 18th century, when the rest of the world, when they were fighting duels between elite people and sometimes killing people, but they were using swords. It was an elite practice. In the United States, really, people weren't really into swords in that time period. It was guns. Dueling in America was about guns, while it was still about swords in other countries. Guns are a very small d democratic weapon. And so all the way back, the United States kind of started out in a different place socially, and in some ways culturally, although obviously they came forward from Europe, from England. But you know, every country has a distinctive culture, and America has always had that kind of a stand-up, ground level kind of a culture.
Final brief thought. Where does this go, in your view?
Well, you know, going all the way back to good old Andrew Jackson, there was an assassination attempt. Nothing happened. The guns misfired. Two things happened. Either people immediately pointed fingers at his enemies and said, "You did that," or they said it was staged and made up because it was some way for him to get sympathy. I think if right now people begin to use this as a finger-pointing moment, those are, I would call them bad actors. Those are people who should not be using this moment to stoke further animosity. So one way out of this is to step back for a moment, and also for the American people to see that at this moment it's not a moment to jump in the bandwagon and forge ahead wanting more violence. It matters what we think about this moment too.
Step back rather than step forward. That's a good way to think of it. Thank you, Joanne. Just in, by the way, a statement from Melania Trump, the former president's wife. She offers her thanks to law enforcement and her sympathies for the victims, and she calls on the country to ascend above the hate, the vitriol, and the simple-minded ideas that ignite violence.